Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program this evening. For those of you who may have joined us yesterday evening, I'm sure you must have found that very exciting. And for those that didn't join, the clip is still available on YouTube, it's available on Facebook, and it was a blast. It was inspirational. Everything we wanted this program to be in this month of October, that program. But I'm also excited because today is not going to be different. We have an amazing guest this evening, and I'm sure that you will be tremendously blessed at the end of this. Without wasting much time, um, I would first of all invite you to share the links, invite your friends. We're live on YouTube, Synctaface Media YouTube page. We're live on Believers Faith Campaign YouTube page. We're live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook, multiple Facebook channels, all our channels. We're live on all of them. So please do share those ones, create a watch party, send those out. It's going to be an exciting one this evening. So without wasting time, our guest this evening is someone called Bisola. Now, I'm going to tell you how I got to meet Bisola and how I came in contact with her music. It was on Facebook. I saw the clip on Facebook and I was like, wow, where did that come from? I've got to speak to this person. I've got to bring her on the show. And guess what? I reached out to her and she said yes, she was going to come. I was pretty excited about that. Now, I'm not going to take too much of your time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip of Bisola's music, and then Bisola will come in, join us, and we'll start to speak to her about her journey and about her story. Of course, you can put in your comments. They all come up on the system here. We're going to see that, and we will pass some of your questions to Bisola to get her to answer those. So listen to Bisola's song here, and you see why we got her on the program, and we'll welcome Bisola to the show.
We've been through so many battles, and we ain't gonna lose this war. 'Cause Jesus paid the price, he took the fall, destined for victory to win it all. Like a thief in the night, rushing in like a flood, trying to steal all we have, but we walk by faith, not by sight. We know the one who conquers all. Old things gone, passed away. I once was weak, now I'm strong. Through the one glorious Son of God, he is mighty to save. His love displayed upon the cross. 'Cause greater is he that's living in me. It's his power that gives me hope, keeps me standing. It's not about me, no, what I cannot be in my own strength, in my own understanding. We've been through so many battles, yeah, and we ain't gonna lose this war. 'Cause Jesus paid the price, he took the fall, destined for victory to win it all. One by one, strongholds fall, the enemy is undone. All his plans and his schemes shall be crushed beneath our feet by the Lord of Lords and the Prince of Peace. that's living in me. It's His power that gives me hope, keeps me standing. It's not about me, nor what I can be in my own strength, in my own understanding. We've been through so many battles, yeah, and we ain't gonna lose this war, 'cause Jesus paid the price, He took the fall, destined for victory. Jesus paid the price, He took the fall, destined for victory to win it all. We're gonna win, 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 by the power of the blood and the word of our testimony. Yeah, we're gonna win, we're gonna win, we're gonna win, we're gonna win. I said we're gonna win, we're gonna win, we're gonna win, by the power of the blood and the word of our testimony. Yeah, 'cause we've been through so many battles, yeah, and we ain't gonna lose this war, 'cause
Bisola, you are welcome to the program this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate giving us some of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I mean, really appreciate you reaching out and yeah, just being a part of what you're doing. I pray it's a blessing, but I'm sure already it is a blessing. But yeah, just thank you for inviting me along.
Well, Bisola, we've got a lot of questions for you tonight, so let's just dive right in. And we talked about your songs, and I went online and I saw these things, and I just thought, I've got to get Bisola. I've got to speak to her about her songs, and we're going to see a couple of them in the course of the program. But Bisola, my first question to you: in that video clip that we just saw, what inspired that song?
That's a very good question. Um, well, I guess, you know, this song really came maybe about a month, 2 months into the pandemic. And as you know, it was a really tough time back in March when we went into lockdown initially, and there was all the fear and anxiety around the world. Everyone was obviously not knowing where things were going to go, and then there was this constant barrage of news, and you were seeing the numbers, of people being affected going up every day, and that sort of begins to shake you, no matter who you are, because there's just not enough answers or clarity about what was going on. And I think I got to a point where I was like, well, this doesn't seem right as a Christian. We have a God that is bigger, that is stronger than any virus, than any circumstance or situation, and we need to remind ourselves of that truth. And that's where the song started to come from. I mean, funny enough, I think I'd actually written the words, been through so many battles, and I'm not sure how much of that section I'd actually written, but this was months ago. But all I'd written was just that little bit. We've been through so many battles, and maybe that was just about the sum of what I had. And so when, like I said, the pandemic hit, and then you start processing what's going on, and you're trying to think about, well, what is God saying to us? and how does he want us to respond to this? And those words came back to mind, and from there was when the actual story started to emerge of where to take the song to, where really looking at what God's word said, and then applying that to the song itself, and saying let's really not give in to the virus, let's not give in to the fear, let's not give in to what's going on in the world. And sadly, people obviously have been affected by it. Some people have obviously passed away as a result of it, but for those who are still left behind, let's fight this battle. Let's not just give in and let fear get the best of us.
Wow. So this was a song that came out during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the first few words, we've been through so many battles. I actually had written this like months ago, but this was before the pandemic or anything. No one, the pandemic, it came from nowhere, right? So I'd written these words, just that little phrase, months ago. So as I said, when I really felt this stirring in my spirit to actually write song, a song about what was going on, those words came back to mind. And to me, it was like, okay, God is saying, get your fight on. It's time to battle. This is not the time to be afraid. This is not the time to shrink back. This is the time to actually rise up, and stare down what's going on and move forward. So, I believe sometimes before you go through certain situations, God has already gone before and made preparations in advance, and put certain things in place to sort of help you navigate that period of whatever it might be you're going through. So like I said, the fact that I'd written that phrase, months ago, before we knew anything was ever going to happen, was for me almost a confirmation that, God is in this, God cares about us, God wants us to, adopt an attitude of faith when you are faced with situations like this. And because it's already gone before and made a provision, i.e., in my case, this song, it already given me that phrase, that I could build on that, and that elevated my faith, because I was like, okay, if you gave me words like this randomly when everything was fine,
Oh,
and brought
wow.
it back to mind in the middle of this pandemic situation, then it tells me that God had already known what was going to happen, and He was already preparing, a way of, encouragement and hope for all of us through this.
So two things I want to pick from there, Bisola. The first one being, so you got the first words before the pandemic hit. There was nothing really going on. It wasn't like you were going through a challenge or anything at that time.
Oh,
Wow.
that's what's
Wow.
quite funny. I mean, that's why I couldn't write the song at the time. These words are like, oh, okay, great. They sound really nice, but they didn't mean anything to me. They didn't have any relevance to my life or my circumstances at the time. So that's why they were just words that I had just scribbled, or I'd recorded the sound of that,
Hmm.
at the time as well. But I said it didn't. It was just that little phrase, and that's all. That's all I had. So it wasn't going anywhere because it wasn't the right time for that song.
Wow. I'll come back to that point in a second. But the other point is this. It seems like um, you are letting us in a little bit into how you write your music. So the first line came, you had a bit of that first line, and then you kept it. How did you know that the time, well, not so much the timing, I'll come back to the timing, but how did you feel the additional words that then gave you the full song?
I think that's a really good question, and the songwriting process for me is it goes through. It happens in different ways for me. But as I said, when I was going through I have a recorder where I record everything, every idea that I get, whether it's a phrase, whether it's a melody, whatever it is, I record it, because I'm like, okay, even if I can't write it now, at some point when I'm ready to write it, then I remember what that particular piece was about. So as I said, for some reason, as I was going through my list of all these recordings, this stuck out, this particular recording I'd done of that phrase, and I thought, you know what, this feels like the right song for now. And and then when I do write songs, I do pray, because I'm like, God, what are you saying? God, what do you want me to say through this song? How does this song need to feel? There's so many aspects to when you write a song that you need to think about. And for me, it was like God was saying, this is a battle song. This is a song to encourage people to rise up, not give in to the fear, and really just fight through what's going on, because we'll win eventually, because Christ has won. And those
Yeah.
were the kinds of you know lines of thinking that were coming to my mind at the time. And then also, then I was thinking about the scriptures that sort of line up with that. So you have things like where it says, God is mighty to save. Jesus has overcome. He's already, we're going to win because he's already given us the victory, because it's by the blood and the power of his testimony. So all these things are straight from the Bible. Plagiarized the Bible, right? to write to write some of this, and then also some of it was, like I said, just processing what those words meant and bringing it into our situation now also.
But there's one thing I want to touch on there, and I think that maybe this is just for the musical people generally. I don't know, but this thing about, you get a song, you sit on it really and wait for the right time. Sometimes it feels like, this was a hit song. This was something that, hey, I got that hit, throw it out there. But no, you sit on it and you're waiting, right time, right time, right time, and then suddenly something hits and you release it. And I think that's an important principle in life, that um, listening to God for the right timing is important. And even when you've
Definitely.
developed a capability, it doesn't necessarily mean that that capability needs to be thrown out there immediately you get it, because the
Totally.
revelation may come to you. You sit down on the revelation, meditate on it, and then sometimes you just hit that more perfect time for you to
Yeah.
release this. Wow, wow. Okay, I see where you're going with this. Um, let me move on to the second question. When did music start for you? When did you know that, one, you're a songwriter and you're a singer? We'll come to the songwriting, but when did you know? And maybe I should ask it anyway. Which one came first, the songwriting or the singing?
I'd definitely say the singing, because um, when I was a kid, I remember clearly. When I say when I was a kid, I meant maybe like 5 or something like that. And my grandma took me to church, and I just remember vividly, the singing, in the church that we were in. I just remember I just loved it. Something about it just, captured me, and I was like, oh, I really love music. I guess was the beginning, and then over time, I didn't even know if I had an ability. I wasn't even thinking that way. It was just every time I was at school, I would always get, pulled into the choir, or pulled in to do all these performances where, I was either singing or performing in some way. And, but I just did it. I just thought that was just normal. Everyone just does that. So I didn't want to give it too much thought, but I did have a real love and connection to music and singing anyway, just based on who I was. And then it was when I was attending a church at the time called KT, Kensington Temple, and in there I got more involved in the choir. Then I was promoted, so to speak, to start doing solo performances. And I think it was after doing that for like a few years, and I really felt like, oh, you know what, I'm enjoying this. And you get feedback from people, and they tell you, obviously, you're doing good, and it makes you think, oh, maybe there is something here that I need to explore, and just keep developing. So I think in terms of the singing, like I said, it's always been from since I was quite young, something that was part of my life. But in terms of moving to sort of a more professional side of things, I would certainly say once I really became embedded in my church choir and performing more sort of solo performances, that was when it began to like feel like, oh, actually maybe this is something I should be stepping out and doing something with.
This program is about also about legacy, looking at what has happened in our past, how we build on that for the future. You mentioned something very important in passing there, and I really want to touch on that. You said your grandmother took you to church.
Yes.
What influence did she have on you?
It's funny, my grandma was a troublemaker. She was a handful. She was
Okay,
a
so
proper handful,
was
man.
it the grandma that was the troublemaker, or was it you that was the troublemaker and she was responding to
Well,
that?
that is a good point. And that is a very actually I was telling with some friends today how naughty I was as a child. So actually
There you
there might have
go.
been there, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree actually. So let's think about it from the other perspective. Um but yeah, I to be what's interesting about that particular scenario is that I've actually come from a Muslim background. So my dad's Muslim, but my mum came from a Christian background. So when they got married, I guess they had this intention that she was going to convert and become a Muslim, but she never really did. But then she never really went to church either. So for me, when I was young like that, church wasn't really a part of my life. I didn't have any real sort of connection with church from a going to church services on a regular basis. So my grandma, because I think she came to visit or came to stay with us for a little while, because she was still practicing as a Christian, she then took me to church because my mom wouldn't take me because she wasn't going to church herself anyway. So that's why that story is maybe particularly significant, because if she hadn't come to visit or stay with us, then perhaps my first experience of being in church would have been much later in life.
Wow. All right. So let's move on I think I get from that the singing came first, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because like I said, but like for me, it was just I thought everybody sang and everyone was good. It wasn't a thing. I just thought we just sang and it was a normal thing for everyone to do. So, as I
Okay.
said, it was more later on, like it kind of clicked, like, oh, hang on, there is something here that you need to step out.
Okay.
In
So where did the songwriting come into the equation? When did you start to know? I mean, we all listen to music. I listened to your
yeah.
lovely music online. I didn't become a songwriter out of it, right? When
You
did
never know.
you?
You might have a gift lurking somewhere that you haven't, tapped into.
Well,
So
it might be there.
you
When did
never know.
absolutely, these days anything can happen, but
Totally.
when did you know that, hang on, I am getting words that I can put music to? That was when did you realize that?
Hmm. Oh, it was actually still very young as well, because I remember um, when I was 11, and one of my really good friend in secondary school at the time, and she wrote a song. And when she came to school one day, she was like, "Oh, I wrote this song," and I remember saying, in that moment, she said, "I wrote a song." I think my brain was like thinking and processing, the thoughts of, well, you mean people actually write songs? Because I don't know where I thought songs came from. Maybe I assumed songs just dropped down from heaven and there they were. But up to that point, I never processed or conceived of the fact that people actually wrote songs. I said I was only 11, so that's maybe why that would explain why. But I remember when she said that and she sang or shared a song with us, and I just thought something just sparked up in me saying, no, I want to do that as well. So I remember I went home and I wrote a song, and it was rubbish, complete, like, horrible. But that was my first foray into like writing a song. Like I said, it was just, I just realized, oh, hang on, people write songs. I want to do that, because there was, like I said, something just sparked up in me that I should be doing that as well. So right from when I was a kid, I was already writing songs, but it was very kind of basic, and um, if anything, when I was writing my songs as I started to get into my teenage years, the songs, the whole songwriting process was actually more of an outlet for me because I had as you picked up, I was a bit of a, troublesome, a handful. Let's say I was a handful. So I was always getting into trouble, and I was always being sent off to my room, and I was always, sulking and so usually all that time I was spending in my room because I wasn't like I didn't have a TV in my room or anything, so I was just there. And then you would find that the thing you could do was write songs because you had all the maybe you were upset about what had happened. So it was a way of also venting, a way of getting all these emotions out of my system. So that's kind of where it initially sort of started to evolve and develop. It was more of me processing what was going on in my life and then writing about it. But also I was being imaginative as well, of course, and imagining, I'm going to fall in love with this rich, famous guy, so I need to write a song about that as well.
Let me check something there, Bisola. You talk about this thing of sometimes it's an outlet for you involved and for singers generally. How much of what you do generally comes out of an experience that you were going through, and to what degree does that impact the power in that song?
It's a good question. I think certainly over the last few years, as I've become sort of more focused on my songwriting, um, it's been a mix. So sometimes it might be stuff I'm going through, sometimes it's things I'm seeing around me, sometimes it's it could be relationships with friends and or things that they're going through or family, etc. So it's pulling from different experiences. It's not just what I'm going through because, to be honest, there's only so many things, so many ways to process your emotion and keep a song interesting, relevant, and meaningful. So it's a gamut of different things. Sometimes it could just be I could just be doing the dishes in the kitchen, and an idea literally just drops in my head, like not thinking about anything. I'm just washing the dishes, and then suddenly a melody might come, or a sudden sort of phrase might drop in my head, and I'll be like, oh, I feel like I need to write something about this. So it really varies. There isn't like one set method when it comes to my songwriting. Everyone's different, of course. Some people write
Yeah.
more from their experiences as well.
But is have you found, generally speaking, in the music industry, that the songs that come from people going through situations generally invoke a lot more emotion in the listeners, or is it more neutral?
It's a good question, and I can think of examples of songs exactly like that. That, like I said, someone's going through whatever, whether it was a trying situation, mostly trying situations,
Mhm.
and you can feel the emotions from that for sure. So I can think of examples clearly like that have been hugely successful. But I can also think of loads of other examples as well of songs where they have just been written because you know people decide that they want to write about this subject matter, or
Mm.
like I said, maybe they had inspiration about something dropping in their minds or coming to their attention, etc. So and those have been also equally successful. People who have also connected with those songs as well. I think music is very personal. Actually, if anything, you take a song, and it might mean one thing to me, and then something completely different to you.
Mm.
It's because you're attaching your own experiences to it as well. You're attaching your own circumstances and things you're going through to that song. So there isn't a right, wrong way, more successful, not a least successful way of writing a song.
Mm.
Everything all plays a part, you know in the
All right.
process.
Fantastic. Let me move this further, because I also noticed that you've gone one step further from just singing and writing. You actually play at least one musical instrument that I'm aware of, because I've seen that one. So first of all, how many musical instruments do you play?
let me say 1.5. Because I kind of play the piano, but it's not good enough to do it publicly at the moment. Because yeah, I just need to get consistent and more confident in it. So I sometimes use it when I'm writing my songs. It's helpful, but like I said, I don't play publicly with it. But the guitar is the one that I sort of specialize in, and it's quite comfortable to use because you can go to a gig or performance, and if you can rock up with your guitar, you can start playing straight away. You don't need a lot of setup to get it going. So it's a great instrument to actually master if you can.
Why? I know you've kind of touched on it there, but was it a deliberate choice for you on the guitar for the reason you've just talked about there?
Definitely, yes, a deliberate decision. Uh, Partly due to the reasons I mentioned, but I remember usually when I perform live, I would normally either do acoustic sets, or if I have a big band, then obviously you have a big band, you've got all sorts going on. But more often than not, the acoustic set is kind of the easy, simple, no fuss kind of approach that I tend to go with. And I would always have like a guitarist accompanying me, which is great, no problem at all. But I remember when I went traveling years ago, um, and it was like around the world trips. I was, stopping about different destinations, and sometimes I would perform, etc. But I remember when I got to the States in particular, and I was trying to sort out some performances, and they all kept saying we only accept live music. We don't accept people doing kind of backing track, performing to an instrumental, whatever. And because obviously I wasn't traveling with my guitarist, I was like, oh, so I'm stuck. I can't perform because I don't have a live instrumentalist, and I have to then hire someone, but they then have to learn the song. It's going to get too complicated. So I thought, okay, forget about it. But I think on the back of that trip, I thought, you know what, you need to also perform on an instrument, because you need to have that flexibility so that wherever you go, you can actually perform. You're not inhibited because you don't have someone who can accompany you when playing. So I came back, and that was my big, like, I must do this.
So did you teach yourself the
Focus.
guitar, or did you go for
I
lessons?
YouTube helped. I started with YouTube. I think because what happened was I was like, that initial, yeah, I'm gonna do this. But I thought to myself, well, let's be real about this. I might start this and then completely just fall off the wagon. So I thought, okay, let's keep it. Let's not start lessons just yet, because then that's you're paying someone for something that you may never end up using. So I thought, okay, start with YouTube. See if you even enjoy doing this. See if you even connect with playing the guitar, and then go from there. So that's what I initially did. I started on YouTube, got a few basics down, but obviously reached the point where I was like, okay, I need to get a bit more expert help just to get me better and move me on to the next level. So I have had a bit of training in that space as well over the years, and then you just keep developing yourself, even if you're someone who is an expert, and really good at any instrument. You have to keep developing yourself and keep getting better and learning new skills and ways of playing, so which is great, because then you never stagnate.
Mm.
So yeah, that's kind of my guitar story.
All right, that's interesting. I think that's a very good point for us to maybe listen to one of your songs, and then we continue the conversation around what you're doing now, and how,
Sure.
generally speaking, the lockdown has affected you.
It's been long, too long, too long. I've been out here on my own, waiting for you. In the valley of dry bones, in the desert, in the storm, desperate for you to come and stir up the water. Take me high, breath of life. Oh, come and stir up the water. Change things up, it's about time. need strength when you're not strong to make it through. A miracle. I had given up the fight, lost the fire in my eyes, but your love broke through. Amazing you. You came and stirred up the water. You took me high, breath of life. You came and stirred up the water, changed things up. Now it's time that I come alive, and I come alive when you come and stir the water. And I come alive, and I come alive when you come and stir the water. And I come alive, and I come alive when you come and stir the water. And I come alive, and I come alive.
Now, that video was so captivating. I almost forgot I had to go back to Bisola.
Nice one.
But it brings up an interesting point. When you look at the first video and the second video, I think it's clear that you put some effort into the quality of the videos. How important was that for you?
Very. I mean, everything one does needs to be done with excellence. And I don't, for me, I always kind of think whatever I do, I need to be able to stand by it. Like in 10 years' time, I want to look at this and think, yeah, I'm happy with the quality. I have nothing to be, disappointed about myself in that piece of work. Everything I think like I said should be done to the best of our ability. I don't believe in doing things in house. I believe in just giving the best. So I think that's where that came from. It's just everything needs to be just as good as it can be. I may not have a massive budget, but there are good people out there that do good work and don't charge a fortune either. So it's trying to find the right balance, really.
No, I was going to ask you the same question again on this particular one because, these two songs really caught my attention. And you've got other songs that were, equally as good, but I just saw these two and I thought, the video quality, the presentation was fantastic, the song was fantastic, and it was an attraction to say, I'd really like to speak to this person. And what kind of comments have you received about your videos in the past?
Oh, I mean, it's always been really positive. And yeah, I like I said, it just pushes you to keep wanting to keep yourself at a certain level, and certainly not deliver anything that
Hmm.
that just doesn't make you feel like I can stand by this in 10 years time, in 20 years time, and feel like, yeah, I did the best I could have done.
Wow. Now, this particular song won an award,
It
right?
did.
It did.
It did. Sorry, I didn't realize you were waiting for me to respond to that.
So, how did that feel?
Surprising, actually. I was shocked. I didn't expect it. I did go for the award ceremony. It was actually out in Atlanta. And I remember at the time the organizers of the event, um, you know, they'd obviously, sent me the invitation. And I was thinking, oh, I don't want to go all the way out to the States for this. I'm not going to win it anyway. So what's the point? But they just kept sort of being persistent. And I just thought, okay, well, worst case, I'll go and it'll be a great chance to meet, other people in the industry out there and maybe have a bit of a holiday while I'm at it. So I kind of went with that sort of, okay, fine, I'll just take it as it comes and just enjoy the experience more than anything else. So when my name was announced, when they announced that I'd won the won the award, I was genuinely shocked. I didn't expect it, but at the same time, I was like really thankful because it's just great that because I was telling some people about the story that just month or so before, I had actually been in another, like, this was like a songwriting competition, similar to like your, not your, not like your Britain's Got Talent or whatever, or X Factor, but it was like a, like a sort of fairly well respected songwriting competition. And I made it to the finals, and then we're all performing live at the finals, and then the judges would select who the winner was. And I remember my song, the song I performed that day was a totally different song, and I obviously didn't win. I didn't even come like third. I didn't even get like, there was like a special recommendation or something, special mention or whatever. I didn't even get that, and I remember I was like so disappointed on the drive back because it was like a good 2 hour drive. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, maybe my songs are rubbish. Maybe I'm just kind of deceiving myself here. Maybe I'm just, So you go through all those emotions. Because I was like, why God, why, So imagine, like I said, just about a month, 6 weeks later, then winning this award, and it was a way bigger award, more, and it was an international award as well. It wasn't like something just a UK based thing either. So for me, it was like, wow, sometimes you go through situations where you think the obvious thing would happen and doesn't happen, and then something else happens which actually is better than the thing that you were hoping for or expecting to have happened. So yeah, for me it was a really inspiring moment, and it just pushed me to kind of keep wanting to write better songs. Like I said, you should always try to keep improving yourself anyway. But this just gave me the additional drive that, okay, I am actually making some headway. And yeah, just keep going.
Wow. Well, as we start to get to the last segment of the program, um, obviously, you've got a very fantastic career in music. You've won awards. Um, what would you say has been your most difficult challenge in the music industry? And I want you to address that from two perspectives. One is in the context of church music, gospel music, and the wider music industry, and how that gospel music fits into the context of that.
So I think maybe the big thing to mention in my particular case, because I don't classify myself as a gospel singer. I tag myself more as an inspirational singer, and the reason why I do that is because actually my music talks more about life and experiences, but through the context of obviously God's word. So it's not always, saying, Jesus or God in my songs. It's more just, like I said, just talking about experiences in life and then bringing a biblical, faith-based angle to it. And so for me, maybe the challenge I have had is actually finding and, being able to um, get myself that sort of exposure in that space, because it's not like a space where people kind of resonate to straight away. People get gospel, people get your pop music, people get your rock music because it's quite clear and very defined. But when you come with inspirational music, where it's like it can cut across different genres, yes, but the messaging is what's different, and the way it's presented is what's different. And so therefore it's more of a challenge, because sometimes churches are like, oh, but we want the certain kinds of songs if you're going to a church to perform. And then if you're out performing just in a regular sort of secular environment, it's sometimes it's like, you're not sort of fitting that the typical stereotype of a pop artist either. So that's maybe the biggest challenge for me, just finding my niche and being able to establish myself in it, and getting that sort of acceptance in that space.
Okay, that's an interesting thing in terms of that challenge between the classification as you described it, whether you're a gospel singer or an inspirational singer. And I think you're right in the sense that sometimes we put ourselves in a bucket that means that the message is not applicable to a group that need it outside of that immediate environment. And I think that
Totally.
that's an interesting way of putting that. Um, but what would you want to see change to make it easier for um, singers and songwriters like yourself to get their music more widely listened to, if I could describe it that way? Someone who's just in their bedroom, they've just got this great idea, it's come up to them, and they're saying, "What do I do? Help me out here." What would be your advice to someone like that?
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. I'd certainly say, depending on if you're a complete beginner, then I would, definitely recommend just playing your music to, close friends and family initially, just to start to get some confidence in what you're doing and some feedback. But also start testing your material, with maybe people that don't know you as well, because they can be more honest about whether or not they like it. Because the last thing you want is to, with family and friends, they probably want to, they love you, they mean well, but they probably don't want to maybe say really harsh things about your music or what you're doing. Um, so you can't just purely go what they say. You do have to get some balanced feedback. So I'd certainly say try and find opportunities to get feedback outside of your immediate friends and family space. And then if the feedback is good, if people are saying, yeah, this is actually, I'm really feeling this, I'm really connecting with this, and you as a person as well, you really feel that internal passion for this, then nowadays the opportunities are endless of what you can do. You can start putting stuff up on YouTube, whether you're recording yourself in your bedroom, that's perfectly acceptable these days. You don't have to wait until you've got a record deal. In fact, the record deal sort of, pathway is not as popular these days as it used to be. So you can start putting stuff out on YouTube. Again, that's a great platform to start getting some feedback from people that may not know you. And then as you start to develop and hone your skill and you feel like you're getting stronger in that space, you can start putting stuff out on your Spotify and your pop, sort of your real sort of professional level music outlets. You can maybe get yourself some support in terms of maybe getting a manager, a music manager, but usually I would only recommend that when you really have some traction, you're starting to get people book you for, events, etc. Then that justifies you going down that path. But as I said, right now there are just so many options available. You can put stuff on Instagram, just recording yourself 30 seconds, 50 seconds, put that on Instagram, see what the response is like, and it doesn't have to be, fully finished or polished. Just you could just say, I'm working on this song, give me some feedback. That's the kind of world we're living in right now. You can get instant feedback, instant access to people. And I think the real jump is where you now begin to bring a professional element to your recording and your marketing side of things.
One question I have for you, and I think this might be an interesting discussion here, is for that young singer or songwriter, I should say, and you've got this thing of different people would do covers to certain songs,
Yeah.
and there have been cases where the cover has gone on to do much better than the original song in itself.
Mm,
And
yeah.
um, this whole issue around rights management for the song, how important is that for a young singer and a young songwriter to be able to manage that area around copyright of their work?
Well, because there are kind of two questions I think you were asking there. There was a bit about doing covers. I don't know if the question there was, how do you go about doing it without getting any sort of infringements against you? So that's one side of things. And then there's also the other side where, you're writing your own original stuff and then you don't want it to get, used without your permission.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, because one underpins the other, really. If someone wants to do a cover of your song, for example, do they need to get your permission to do that cover? And if that cover then goes on to be maybe more successful than the song by the original person who wrote the song, right? How do you manage those two things together? I think they're interwoven, to be fair, in terms of that. Maybe, but you're the expert in that area, so if you could help us out on that.
Certainly. I mean, if it was your own song and that somebody wanted to cover, then they definitely need to get permission, and ideally credit you in the song as whenever they release it. So you tend to find with most covers, if you look on YouTube, they put something like maybe a cover by, you know, I don't know, Sinach, and then they put a little in brackets cover of this song by Sinach. Do you know what I mean? So there's immediately that reference that this song is not mine; it's someone else's that I'm using. So because what could happen is if, let's say, Sinach finds someone's using a song without her permission, she could ask YouTube to just take that video down, right? So she's well within her rights to do that. So clearly, the onus is on you. If you were someone trying to cover someone else's song, to make sure you get the rights and the permissions to do that. YouTube actually provide a list of songs, like more circular songs that you can do without needing to request advance copyright permission. And there's some
Gotcha.
other songs where as soon as you put it out, it's down like literally within 5 minutes. They don't even like it's like one strike and you're out type scenario. And then on the flip side, as I said, if someone is asking for to do a cover of your song, then they can reach out to you. You can put something in writing, because if again YouTube then flags it, then they can say, look, I got something in writing from the artist and they're okay with me
Gotcha.
doing this as well.
Excellent. All right. So we've got about 6 minutes to the end of the program.
Oh,
What's in
that's flown,
store?
hasn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. What's in store for you in the future? More songs, more tours, or anything of that nature?
Well, certainly hoping for all of the above, but as we know, still we're still trying to get out of this crazy pandemic situation we're in. So things like live performances, are not happening as frequently as one would like. And in fact, in some cases, it's just like things are just cancelled till next year now, kind of thing. So the hope is, yeah, certainly next year things will begin to pick up again, and I can, get back to more live performances. But certainly songwriting, that doesn't stop. And certainly I've written quite a lot over this period where we've been in lockdown. It's been really great in that sense, because I've had more time on my hands, and I think I've been able to reflect a bit more and really try to push myself further as well in that space. But I'm still also hoping to put out a Christmas single. So it's actually coming out next month, and
Oh,
it's a
wow.
re-release of yeah. So it's a re-release of my Christmas track I did from a few years ago. But I said to myself, yeah, well, if Mariah Carey does her yearly release of All I Want for Christmas, then I can do the same as well, right? That's where I'm playing this right now.
Oh, wow, wow. So we're expecting a single for the
Yeah,
Christmas
so that
period.
hopefully will be out next month. That's the plan.
Oh, fantastic. And are you planning a video on that as well?
That video already exists, so people can Google it. It's called This Christmas. And yes, like I said, it's just going to be released again this Christmas, which is good handy.
Not next Christmas, this one.
Not next Christmas, this very one.
Wow. Well, Bisola, I want to say thank you so much for being here
So thank you
this
for
evening.
having
It's
me.
it's been it's been a fantastic time.
Oh, thank you.
We've
I'm
got
really pleased
about I
everyone's been
can see
thinking
here we've got
about it.
about 3 minutes. Do you have any parting shots for our viewers? Any message you want to put out there, where people can get your music and all of that? So just go for that and let our viewers know where they can reach your music.
Sure. You firstly just, yeah, thanks to everyone who's listened and is listening on will listen, I guess, because it's going to be available for playback. Yeah, I hope if there are any budding singers, songwriters, etc., I hope that there's been some nuggets in here that may have helped you. But feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help, advise, and and guide people with it, because we all can't do it on our own. So yeah, I'm available via. You can reach me on my website. I've got more contact details on there. So my website address is Bisola Music. So that's Bisola music. .com. So bisolamusic.com. You can get all my contact details on there. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. My social media handle is at Bisola Music as well. So you can search for me that way, connect with me that way. And like I said, I'm happy to help people as well where they need help. But if they just want to find me about my music, then obviously information's on there as well. I'm on Spotify, I'm on all the major platforms. So just search for Bisola, search for my any of my song titles. Just so you get the right, because I think there's some fake knockoff of the solos out there. So search my name and then in one of my song titles, just to make sure you get the right me. But yeah, like I said, I really hope that today's show has inspired someone in some way, or encouraged someone in some way, or just brought hopefully some light and joy to you. And yeah, I wish you everyone all the best in this time that we've been through the last few months, and praying that things really, really start to look up for every one of us as we come to the end of this year.
Thank you so much, Bisola. We really appreciate you being here with us
Thank you.
this evening. And I will be with you in the virtual studio in a few minutes as
Sure.
I just say bye to our guests. Um, wow, wow, wow. Look, listen to those songs again. For me, I've listened again and again, and they're just exciting. And like I said during the program, the quality of the videos, just amazing to see such quality. But also, the good news is this, as I said at the beginning of this, every Tuesday in the month of October, we're dedicating to music ministers, inspirational singers, songwriters, anybody that's got anything to do with music. We want to hear from them. And the reason is this: at the Believers Faith Campaign, music is so important to us. Any event that I'm having, I'm really particular about the music. I'm very particular about the keyboardists on the keyboard. The fact that they just affect the entire atmosphere in the place. So this month we're thanking God for all He has done, and that's why we call it Legacy 322. Remembering the past, things we have done in the past, giving God thanks for those, and repositioning ourselves for what's going to be happening in the future. So please join us again. We've got a program on Thursday. We've got one on Saturday, on Monday, and on Tuesday. So please keep up with our channels, subscribe, whatever you need to do so you get the notifications when the notifications go out. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. And let me just make sure that I've addressed all the points. Yes, I have. And on that note, I'll see you at the next program.